look at rate conversion. And before we start, we're actually going to look at the concept of the multiplicative identity and how that can be used to solve these kinds of problems. So first of all, let's see what I mean by that. So if I just take the number 2 and I multiply it times 1, and 1, remember, is the multiplicative identity. It does nothing is the point, right? That's what it means, to be a multiplicative identity. When I multiply times it, it does nothing. So 2 times 1 is 2, and I can do that as many times as I like. I can multiply times 1 more than once. I can do it infinitely many times, and it's not going to change my original number. And I can even do that with fractions. And this is using it with fractions illustrates a really interesting point, because if I now say multiply times 2 over 2, we recognize, of course, any number divided by itself is 1, so that 2 over 2 is 1. And if I then multiply it, say, by 3 over 3, you'll see that if I now apply the idea of cross cancellation here, if I say, well, 2 goes into itself once and goes into itself down here, 2 goes into 2 once down here as well. So I've just divided above and below by 2. And 3 goes into 3 once, and 3 goes into 3 once here as well. I divided above and below by 3. Now, interestingly, what I am left with after that, I am left with this 2 here. 2 times 1 times 1 equals 2 over, and 3 times 1 times 1 equals 3. And really interestingly, I want to point out that I started with 2/3. I multiplied only times 1. I multiplied times 1 twice. So I was expecting to get 2/3 back, but interesting to see the numerator and the denominator that I returned. It wasn't the original ones, it was the ones from the 2 1s that I multiplied times. So let's hold that thought, and let's take a look at this, this rate problem that we have right here. And one of the things that I'm going to do here is I'm going to break this up into separate parts. So I'm going to say, well, okay, Ria here, she's applying mulch at a rate of 250,000 centimeters cubed per meter squared of garden space. And if we look at, this is centimeters cubed per meter squared of garden space, okay? Now, if we remember that, this is 250,000 centimeters cubed per 1 meter of garden space, so I can actually say, well, that's per 1 meter of garden space. And I can also say, I can separate these out. I can say, well, this is 250,000 over 1 times centimeters cubed over meters squared, okay? So once I start looking at it like this, I can say, well, okay, this is going to allow me to do some things to it. The next thing I'm going to look at is I'm going to look at the unit that I have to convert the rate to. I have centimeters cubed over meters squared. I'm being asked for meters cubed over meters squared, which isn't the same as this. Well, what we need to do first is we need to multiply this times 1. But the ones we're going to choose are going to match the units that are in our answer. So we're going to start with let's start with the denominator here. Okay, so we're going to start with meters squared over meters squared. 1 meter squared over 1 meter squared, that's just equal to 1. That's really nice. Okay, and the next thing we're going to look at is we're going to look at meters cubed. So we're going to go with meters cubed over meters cubed. Now, if you're really observant, if you were looking at what we did up here, you might notice that this meter squared right here, this meter squared right here is going to cross cancel with that meter squared up here. But we don't have a centimeters cubed down below to cross cancel with this one. So we need to do a bit of conversion, don't we? Right? So what we can do with this is that first we need to understand how many centimeters cubed is in a meter cubed. So to do that, well, you can do a quick search on Google, or hopefully you know how to calculate this, that 1 meter cubed is equal to 1 million centimeters cubed. And well, that's something for a separate video. There's reasons why it's that large, but you can multiply it out if you see fit. So what we're going to do here is we're actually going to replace this meters cubed down here with centimeters cubed. And how we're going to do that is we're going to say, well, this so therefore 1 meter cubed, okay, over 1 meter cubed is the same as saying 1 meter cubed over 1 million centimeters cubed. Okay, so we're going to then go down the next line and we're going to rewrite all of this just for tidiness sake. Tidiness is a very good idea when you're dealing with these, right? The tidier you are, the easier this will all work out for you. So we're on our meters squared right there. And on this last one, we're going to write it as 1 over 1 million. 1 over 1 million times, and this was meters cubed. If we look over here, we've got meters cubed over centimeters cubed. Okay, and now we're on the step where I like to say this is where the magic happens. All right, so let's take a look at this. All right, okay. The first thing here is that these 2 meters squareds cancel out very nicely. Okay, and then we see that the centimeter cubed on top cancels out with the centimeter cubed on the bottom. So interestingly now, and I like to rewrite this first before we go any further, tidy up again, right? 250,000 times 1. We can even cancel out these ones just for extra tidiness, okay? So now we've got 250,000 over 1 million. And we have meter cubed over meter squared. Okay, we're really close to what we need now. We just need to calculate what this is here. And so that one finally is just 1/4. 1/4 of a meter cubed over a meter squared. Okay, so I'm going to stop that right there. Show you first of all that it's true. You can say 1/4, or you can say 0.25. Works fine. No, it wants a proper fraction, of course. So 1/4 of a meter cubed, and there you have it. I hope that helps you guys. If you got any questions, please leave them in the comments.